Story 1. They are not special or better. They are just people. You give them respect and treat them like normal people, and they will return the same sentiments. Do not put them on a pedestal and get disappointed when they do not live up to the unrealistic standards you have in your mind. Story 2. How much they want or need to feel desired. I'm incredibly repressed, so I've been realizing little by little that it does not matter how well we go together as people. If I can't show affection and desire, she will move on. Story 3. Women are flawed human beings just as much as men. I think most men, like me, had this image of women being perfect angels, and their mistakes or bad behavior are mostly not on purpose. It's very easy for us men to look past obvious red flags, disrespect, and bad behavior just because we think she didn't mean it, she's just on her period, hormones, and so on. You're doing yourself and her a huge disservice because you're not treating her like a proper adult. Story 4. I learned that they don't want me to solve their problems. They just want me to listen unless they say, "Help me solve a problem." If they start talking about a problem, just listen. Empathize and be understanding. Be supportive. Nod your head a lot. A couple of key phrases that have helped me are, "Oh my God, she's such a jerk," or "That really stinks. I'm so sorry," or "Wow, tell me more." They don't need me to solve their problems. They just need someone to listen and be understanding. It's against my nature not to try to fix something, but I learned it's best to listen. Story 5. Most do not actually care what kind of car you drive. Thinking about buying a sports car to impress women? The only compliments you will get are from car guys at fast food drive-thrus. I got as many dates driving a 1983 beat-up Chevrolet truck as I did my 2013 Dodge Charger. Story 6. How many products do they need? Multiple soaps, shampoos, conditioners, moisturizers, so many moisturizers, different types of makeup, etc. There is enough room on my bathroom countertop for my toothbrush, and that is it. Story 7. Sometimes, in certain cases, women will date you because they are bored and you are basically just something to do. They'll sleep with you and everything, but at the end of the day, they've already made up their mind that they don't really see a future with you. As soon as things get a little inconvenient or if something better comes along, they are gone. It might be obvious to some, but lots of guys don't know this and think all women are automatically wholesome creatures. Story 8. Indeed, the intricate dance of maintaining appearances is an aspect that cannot be understated. The array of bottles, tubes, and potions lining the bathroom shelves speaks volumes of the efforts invested. But beyond the superficial, it is the resilience and adaptability to life's challenges that often goes unnoticed. Perhaps there is a silent strength in those rituals, a kind of meticulous armor being put on each day. It is a revelation then, how behind every smooth surface there lies a complexity, a story untold, and a quiet determination to face the world prepared. Story 9. If they wanted to, they would. If a woman likes you, she'll go out of her way to let you know. Ever since I realized that, I pretty much stopped caring about approaching to date. The game is already stacked against me as someone who's admittedly unattractive, so why make it worse by barging into whatever they're doing? Nowadays, I just focus on myself, my hobbies, and saving money. Story 10. If they are in any way making an advance at you and they don't normally, this is your only chance. If you don't take it now, it will never happen again. Story 11. Don't listen to what women say. Watch what they do. Don't listen to a woman tell you who she is. Watch her long enough and she will show you who she is. Women aren't special or better people than men are. They're just human beings. They're as flawed as men are. In some aspects, they're even worse. Story 12. Women are ruthless when they have a relationship with a specific man in mind. They will totally disrespect another woman trying to get with their man without a second thought. Women often just do not care if a man is married or not, or in a relationship if they are locked in on a man. Their lack of honor is terrifying. Story 13. I had a Mazda MX-6. Not fancy, but it had a spoiler and sunroof. That car got me attention. There's no way I'm as attractive as I'd have to be to impress all the extremely attractive women I met. A guy in a BMW told me, "You have no idea how shallow women are until you have a nice car." Story 14. How easily they cheat and feel completely justified about it. How much detail in what they discuss about your intimate life with their friends but think that you talk about them with yours, which doesn't happen. The false confidence they portray in public in comparison with the self-doubt and insecurities they express in private. Story 15. They don't want their problems solved because then they can't complain endlessly about the problem. Women speak in code, specifically with other women, and have to decode everything that comes back at them to infer all sorts of things like intent and aggravation. When they speak with men, they run everything through that same filter, not understanding that with most men, it's already decoded. This leads to many communication errors. They invent all sorts of emotional work and then have to deal with it. Now they're upset with the men in their lives because they had to manage the emotional work they invented. I am surrounded by women. I could keep going. Story 16. The reason a lot of them are never single is because they work toward getting a new boyfriend before breaking up with the old one. If you think you'll wait it out until she is single, well, there's a really good chance she never will be, not even for a day. Story 17. Slick and great at mental manipulation and double standards. They are nurturing but to a point of being nagging and overbearing at times. Very emotional and need plenty of attention and validation constantly. Great companions until the arguments come up seemingly out of thin air. The ones I know have acute memories, especially during arguments and when trying to get under your skin to win. They don't seem to remember or take accountability for what they have done wrong though. And people say men are prideful. Be careful about what you tell them because they never seem to forget. Story 18. Do not ask women what they want and do not bother listening to what they say. Pay closer attention to how they respond and the choices they actually make. Rarely does what they say ever line up with what they do. Story 19. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, and they aren't the empathetic and fairer sex they advertise themselves to be. They can be quite scary, actually, because they would do reconnaissance on you, check who is related to you, and can basically ruin your credibility in an instant. That is in the worst case. In the best case, they are just human beings that are chill. Story 20. That female sexuality is completely different from male sexuality. The cultural myth I grew up with was the blank slate model of the human mind, suggesting that men and women were psychologically identical. Anyone who has eyes can see this isn't true, and none of the studies from the past 60 years support this idea. But it's what people want to be true, so we all just pretend that it is. This misunderstanding caused a lot of confusion and a lot of pain that didn't need to happen during the first few years I was dating. Story 21. Women tend to like sex more than men and are most impressed by guys who are secure in themselves more than any other factor. Specifically, guys who have their own life they are living with passion, whether or not the woman is interested. Story 22. That they are meaner than men, even if not given to as much direct violence. Using different standards than physical violence, they are definitely the deadlier of the species. This is not misogyny, but decades of experience of being under women's control. Story 23. They say they want you to be vulnerable and honest all the time, but they really don't. There are extreme double standards when it comes to dating, and that's fine, but I don't think women really acknowledge it. Also, every good relationship is based on good communication. But what this typically means is that you are the main communicator and typically have to guess what she's upset about before she actually communicates it to you. I am expected to listen to my girlfriend's work problems and stories every single day. I am expected to be present, ask questions, and know all about her work friends, who she dislikes, etc. Which, if I'm really into her, I am happy doing. If the situation is reversed, and I have a terrible day at work and want to vent to her about it, she looks at me differently. If I am anything but stoic and confident, the woman leaves. I once dated a girl for 6 months, and the one and only time I was vulnerable to her about a bad day at work, she left. As a man, sharing vulnerability is never going to be equal, so don't expect her to come to your aid whenever you need emotional support. If she does, then try to keep her at all costs because in my experience that's very rare. Story 24. I don't know, growing up an only child, I feel like I had the impression that all girls and women were very clean and thoroughly put together individuals. However, the more women I meet, the more I realize how wrong my previous assumption was. You all can be just as messy as some boys and men. I don't know, especially with all the former partners I've ever had. They initially presented as very clean individuals, and then you get to know them and that facade just falls apart. Which I just think is odd because I tend to be a more what you see is what you get type of person. Story 25. They are so used to getting attention from men, especially sexual attention, that treating them as special doesn't impress them. It actually turns many of them off, so trying to land one or keep one, those grand gestures will chase them away faster than anything. So a lot of them will try to get you to like them if you're not demonstrating that you do. Story 26. At 21, I had no idea what a test was or how often they are utilized by women in relationships, even though I had been in a long-term relationship. I had been failing the tests in that long-term relationship, which is probably a part of why it went so far off the rails. I learned about tests more formally around 22, and it wasn't until I was about 28 that I started to master them. It is a skill I would encourage men to master if you want to have successful marriages. Story 27. The majority of women don't think logically. They are emotional creatures. Sometimes you will win a battle with your logic but will lose the war with it. Words don't mean anything. Actions define a person. If she buys you food, then she might like you. If you have a time management problem, then maybe tell them that the party starts 1 hour before time. It might save you a lot of stress and drama. Prettiness leaves sooner or later. Find someone who actually cares about you and appreciates you for who you are. Remember, it's not about you against each other. It's you all against the problem. Story 28. When I was younger, I did not properly appreciate how easy it is to make some women feel unsafe. I'm not doing a whole man versus bear thing here, but I really didn't understand how vulnerable a lot of women feel. And conversely, I didn't properly understand my role in making them feel secure. Story 29. Most of the time, they want you to make the decisions. Even when they don't want you to make them, you should say what you want and then let them decide or go along with it. Story 30. After all these years, I am pretty sure, almost totally positive, that women are different from men. But you just need to treat them like anyone else. Story 31. Just as bad at communication and expressing feelings. Frustrating when you work on that, make progress only to be chastised for exactly that. But if they can actually communicate, it's pretty amazing. Story 32. When they are venting to you about something, they do not necessarily want a constructive suggestion in response. I used to tie myself in knots looking for something constructive to say. What they actually seem to want is for you to listen and then genuinely say, "That sucks. I am sorry that is happening." Story 33. Growing up, thanks to pop culture and media, I used to think that beautiful women all had good hygiene and smelled nice. Being a single child who went to an all-boys school and was not close to any female cousins, I had no reason to doubt that. Until in college when I played football with some pretty classmates. She scored a goal, and in celebration, lifted her arms out to hug me. I went in for it, and the smell that was coming off her body nearly made me nauseous. Only then did I realize that the most gorgeous-looking women could stink just as bad as men do. Story 34. Their thought process isn't aligned with us, and it never will be. Crude example. Oh, he has done this hundreds of times, so I should trust his skills and experience at the very minimum, and listen to what he has to say about it without making up scenarios where he could be wrong. But rather, oh, you were trying to explain how to do this thing I have never done before, and then I'll get mad about not being able to do it myself, not because of my inexperience, but because of obvious external factors like everyone around me, and I'll just leave it unspoken while it gets magically resolved. I haven't stopped fixing things around the house because I love doing it. I just keep it to myself nowadays. Women are toddlers in high heels. Story 35. That they don't want men to come on to them. Genuinely, I was brought up believing that flirting with women was either flattering or just how people got together. Maybe it was back then, who knows. It was a genuine surprise to find out that as soon as social media or dating apps gave another option, women prefer that. I always thought they enjoyed the whole being chased thing. I think a lot of movies lied to us. You live and learn. Story 36. When I was young, I looked upon the field of women like a field of breasts. Now, older, I know those weren't breasts. They were landmines in the shape of breasts. Story 37. How manipulative they are. I'm not quite sure where they learn it, but the way they weaponize empathy without any genuine regard for the well-being of others, women or men, frightens me. Story 38. When you read the title, did you hear Rod Stewart or Bob Seger? Story 39. Many of them have childhood trauma and personality disorders. They are great actresses and liars, and are much more sexually deviant than they present. They do not care about anything or anyone but themselves, not even their own offspring. They can betray anyone and sleep well at night, yet still expect others to care for and love them. Most have no morals or conscience about their actions. They live solely to serve themselves and will convince themselves and others around them that it's okay for them to be this way. Their lives are just masks that they wear to hide their years of shame, bad decisions, and failure.